Hey there, hope you're all doing well. Today, we're flying to Hong Kong to talk about an actor named Andy Lau, born on September 27th, 1961. From early on, he knew what he wanted, to act. The talent was there, bright, insistent, impossible to ignore. At 21, he landed a TV drama called The Emissary, and that role spun his life on a new axis. The show took off, was dubbed into several languages, and his performance turned heads everywhere. Doors swung open, offers piled up. Before long, he'd appear in more than 190 films and series, a number so big it feels unreal. By 2000, his fame had hardened into a legend. Records, headlines, magazine covers. He seemed to be everywhere. And he wasn't just an actor. He sang, too, racking up awards, local, international, the works. Brands lined up to collaborate with him. His face glowed from TV screens, glossy covers, and massive billboards that watched over the city like electric moons. You get the picture. Despite it all, Andy never grew distant from the people who loved him. He took his fans seriously. One night, after a long shoot, he dragged himself back to the hotel, bone-tired, and asked the front desk to send someone up for a massage. He was practically running on fumes. The regular masseuse arrived, set out her oils and towels, and waited in the room. But as soon as Andy unlocked the door, she bolted past him, panic flashing in her eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I'm leaving," she blurted. "There's a strange noise in there." Andy sighed inwardly. So much for unwinding. "All right, take care," he said, deciding he'd just collapse into bed and rest. He stepped inside. Then he heard it too. A faint rustle, followed by shallow, stressed breathing. The sound was coming from under the bed. No hotel staff, no security, just him. He crouched and lifted the bedskirt. A teenager stared back at him. 15, maybe 16. Eyes wet, face drained of color. "Come on out," he said gently. "What's going on?" The teen crawled out and broke down. He'd come to the big city alone, chasing work that never came. He had no one, nowhere to go. He'd run out of money, options, hope. Something in Andy softened. He called the hotel and asked them to send dinner up for two. They ate together, talked for a long time. No one knows whether Andy slipped him some money or simply gave him time and warmth, but the boy later told the story, and the story traveled fast. Reporters picked it up. Fans believed it. Many called the kid lucky. Who wouldn't want a night like that, sharing a quiet meal with a legend? But one fan couldn't bear it. The idea that a random teenager had lived her dream gnawed at her. Why him? Why not me? She kept asking. She'd tried so many times to meet Andy. The boy, in her mind, had simply stumbled into his hotel room and been blessed by chance. Her name was Yang Lijuan.
She wasn't just a fan of Andy, she was consumed by him. He became the axis her whole life spun around. And the way that obsession began was peculiar. Yang Lijuan grew up an ordinary girl in a modest home. Her father taught school. Her mother kept the house. She was their only child, the vessel for every hope they had. They did everything so she could study well, live well, and she didn't let them down. Top of her class, every term. Sharp as a tack, tireless. Her parents were certain she'd become someone important, maybe even famous. She did become famous, eventually, but not in any way they could have imagined. She sailed through primary and middle school and reached high school. At 16, one ordinary afternoon, she came home, finished her homework, and went to sleep. At night brought a dream unlike any other. Andy, yes, that Andy, appeared and told her they needed to meet. She woke with the details still glowing in her mind. This isn't a dream, she told herself. This is fate. Once he sees me, he'll fall in love. We'll be perfect together. We'll build a life, a family, everything. In her heart, it wasn't fantasy. It was a message from the future, and the future had a name: Andy. Belief hardened into ritual. Night after night, the dreams returned. At first they talked. Then they laughed, held hands, kissed, embraced, the soft edges of a romance taking shape in the dark. Each morning she rose with private warmth, as if she'd lived those moments for real. Daylight belonged to the model student, disciplined, precise, unshakably excellent. Night belonged to the girl in love with a man who had millions of admirers and no idea she existed. Soon, meeting him only in sleep wasn't enough. She missed him during the day. Classes felt like hours stolen from their secret world. About a year after that first dream, she did the unthinkable. She quit school so she could sleep more and dream of Andy more. Her parents knew about the fixation, but they assumed she'd outgrow it. The last thing they expected was for their brilliant daughter to walk away from everything for a celebrity she'd never met. When she told them, something in them cracked. Years of sacrifice felt like sand slipping through their fingers. They tried everything: stern rules, gentle pleas, careful logic. Nothing moved her. Her decision was a locked door. She slept through days and nights, waking only to eat or use the bathroom before sinking back into the dark where Andy waited. When sleep wouldn't come, she combed through magazines, clipping his photos, pasting them on her walls, tracking every detail of his life. Family and the few friends she had left kept tugging at the edges of her trance, trying to pull her back to ground. Pressure mounted. And then Yang said the words that froze the room. If anyone tried to break the love between her and Andy, she would end her life.
She was their only child. And even if she hadn't been, no parent wants to hear their kid talk about ending their life. So they tiptoed around her. She kept retelling those dreams as if they were news from the real world. I went with Andy. I came back with Andy. Andy said. They watched her, helpless. Their calm, careful silence only made her angrier. She wanted them to celebrate, to lean in, to ask about the little details of her relationship with Andy. Soon she was staging a play at home, Andy arriving to propose, her mother and father playing their parts. She wrote the script line by line, assigning each of them exactly what to say. Then she'd lower her eyes and feign shyness, the blushing bride-to-be. I'd never heard of anything like it. Here's the wild part. By the time she turned 19, they'd been acting out that proposal scene for 2 years. She drilled the fantasy so deeply into their lives that they began to believe a version of it themselves. All Andy has to do is see her and he'll fall for her, they told each other. No doubt, no hesitation. They were ready to do anything, not for a dream, but for her mission. How to make Andy see her? She had to go wherever he was. But her father earned the equivalent of about $2,500 a month, enough to keep a roof over their heads, not enough to fund a city-to-city chase. So he did the unthinkable. He borrowed a huge sum, about $1.5 million in their currency, so she could fly to Hong Kong and find Andy. In her mind, the moment the plane touched down, he'd be waiting at the airport, arms open. When she stepped into the humid air of the arrivals hall, joy rushed through her. She swore she could smell him. Finally, they were in the same city. Remember, this was the late 1990s. no social media to track his whereabouts. So she joined a group tour, a bus that looped through every corner of Hong Kong. She kept scanning the crowds, certain he'd simply appear. He didn't. Next, she headed to a busy taxi stand and began asking driver after driver for Andy's home address. Of course, no one knew. What they could offer was a fan mail address, a place where letters and gifts were dropped off and later collected by his manager. "Oh my God, that's it," she said. "I'll write to him. He'll write back. Our love story will finally begin." She sprinted to her hotel, sat at the desk, and started to write. She wrote and wrote and wrote, pouring out everything she'd rehearsed in her head. She hugged the letter, kissed it, and sent it off. A day passed, then a week, then a month. No reply. Then she sent another, then 100. She didn't stop. In time, she sent more than 3,000 letters. Yes, 3,000. He didn't answer a single one. And those letters were unusual. She wrote to him the way a lover writes, referencing moments they'd shared, as if he already knew everything that happened in her dreams.
She was certain Andy came to her in dreams and lived those moments with her. Maybe he read her letters and got spooked, decided she was a little unhinged. Or maybe he never replied to any fans at all. Either way, he never wrote back. Years rolled by, and Yang didn't change. The obsession didn't budge. Her life orbited one son, Andy. 7 years, imagine it, of mailing letters, chasing sleep for another dream, trying everything to meet him, and nothing ever working. Days spent dozing or glued to his films and concert recordings. As a person in the world, she did almost nothing. No skills, no job, no contribution, just waiting. Then came 2004. Andy was finally coming to her city. He had a shoot scheduled there, just a small part of a bigger production, but she decided he'd arranged it on purpose, for her. After all these years, there had to be a payoff. He was coming to see her. He had to be. From the moment she heard the news, she parked herself on the balcony every day, eyes on the street, convinced he'd show up. Each evening she told her parents, "I waited all day. He didn't come." And they would answer, "Don't worry, he'll come tomorrow." Not to soothe her, by then they believed it too. After so long repeating the story, they were sure it would end the way she said it would. He would see their daughter, fall for her, and everything would be fine. But word spread that Andy had finished filming and left the city without seeing her. That very week, he had a huge concert in Beijing. Her father said, "This is the chance," and borrowed about 5,000 to buy her a VIP ticket, front row. Concert day arrived. Yang was there first, heart on fire. "Today's the day," she told herself. "He'll finally see me." When Andy came on stage, the sound in her head went white. It was the first time she'd seen him in real life, so close she could count the beads of sweat. She couldn't take her eyes off him. He didn't look at her. Not once. Not even a flicker. A year crawled past after that, and her father was drowning in loans. Each new attempt to put her near Andy meant borrowing more. In the end, he had one thing left to sell: their house. He sold it for $5 million in their currency, an amount that will make you flinch, and moved the family into a single room with a tiny kitchen rented for about $400 a month. All the house money? Gone. Spent on Yang's trips to Beijing, Hong Kong, anywhere Andy might be. Still, her parents kept saying, once he meets her, he'll love her. He'll fix everything, pay the debts, buy us a new home, take care of us. Meanwhile, her mother was ill and not getting treatment. Every spare coin was being fed to the dream. Yang had one door left to knock on: the press.
She reached out to the celebrity press, the kind that circles stars all day, and told them everything. To her surprise, they agreed to interview her. After that first piece aired, a wave of reporters followed. Everyone wanted a segment. Everyone wanted the story. Yang felt triumphant. At last, my message will reach him. She didn't realize most of them weren't trying to help. They were stunned by her story, fascinated the way people are by a slow-motion disaster. She started appearing on TV shows. Sometimes they came to her, sometimes she sat under the bright studio lights, retelling the tale from that first dream all the way to now. The shows weren't trying to deliver a love letter, they were building a cautionary exhibit, the fan whose devotion tipped into obsession. On one program, they even brought in a psychiatrist to analyze her live. He spoke gently but firmly. This man doesn't know you. He's building his own life. And he was. He had married in secret and had a daughter, news almost no one knew. When Yang learned this, something inside her fractured, but it didn't change her course. Another show tried a stunt. To study her reaction to seeing Andy, they brought out his body double, the stand-in used for certain scenes. He looked nearly identical. Yang glanced once and shook her head. That's not Andy. She knew every contour of his face. She'd memorized him over 12 years of fixation. Neither neighbors, nor experts, nor journalists could move her. In Yang's mind, the whole world was against their love, and that only proved she needed to fight harder. She was living in a film that never cut to credits. Life drifted forward until March 28, 2007. This time, the headlines weren't about her, they were about her father. 2-second pause. Major reveal. The stories noted he was the father of the woman who'd spoken to countless reporters, famous now across the country for her interviews. He had traveled to a bridge in Hong Kong, far from home, and jumped. Paramedics came, but it was too late. Beside him, they found a letter, more than 10 pages, addressed to Andy. In it, he recounted everything, his daughter's path from a single dream to years lost in pursuit of a man who didn't know her. He wrote that he had tried to sell his kidney to fund her pursuit, an awful plan that mercifully never came to pass. He wrote that he could no longer bear the pain in his daughter's eyes, day after day, as her life froze in place. No school, no work, nothing. He admitted that he and his wife had believed in Yang's fantasy for too long. And then his words turned hard. He accused Andy of living untouched by their suffering, of being selfish while his daughter had sacrificed 13 years of her life.
We gave up everything, the letter went on. We're broke, sitting on the floor with nothing. People are at our door for the debts. I've decided to end my life so the message finally reaches you and you'll agree to meet my daughter. When the police and reporters read it, they were stunned. 13 years of this, and only now a fatal choice? Something must have pushed him over the edge. There was. 2 days earlier, Andy's management had contacted Yang. She was invited to meet him, at last, after 13 years. It was the best news of her life. He saw me. He saw everything I said on TV. He understands. She dressed carefully, rehearsed what she'd say, and went to the meeting certain they would sit together, face to face, and finally talk. But it wasn't a private meeting. It was a fan club event, a crowded celebration with thousands of people. Andy came out, took photos with fans, 2 quick shots with Yang, and moved on. He never really looked at her. No conversation, no touch, no quiet moment. None of what she'd built her life around. The next morning, she was back in front of cameras. I won't give up until Andy meets me face to face, she insisted. He keeps seeing that photo and thinks we've already met, but we haven't. Help me meet him for just a short time, 10 minutes, so I can tell him who I am. But the event hadn't allowed that, and now the opportunity was gone. Her father believed this was the last chance. They didn't know Hong Kong. They didn't even know where to start. The only way, he told himself, is to make the story explode so it reaches Andy. And so he chose the bridge. When Yang heard what had happened, she shattered, screaming, sobbing, collapsing in on herself. In her mind, Andy had killed her father. If only he had given her time, none of this would have happened. She went on television again, this time demanding compensation. 60 million and exactly 90 minutes with Andy, face to face, to tell him everything. The timing was unbearable. On the very day her father died, that was her priority. People watching finally said out loud what many had whispered. This wasn't normal grief. News of the death reached Andy, and it shook him. However you see it, a man had jumped and left a letter with your name on it. Still, the truth was simple and impossible. He couldn't answer every letter. He couldn't meet every fan who begged for time. He couldn't marry anyone just to honor a fantasy.
By then, Andy had been quietly married for nearly a decade and had a daughter, building a normal life, working on new projects, surrounded by family. Yang, meanwhile, turned 30 with nothing to show for those years. No degree, no job, no partner, no children. Just the echo of a dream. Her mother's heart problems worsened after her husband died. The small pension that once kept them afloat vanished, and with no steady income, they slipped into a very poor neighborhood. Everything had flipped upside down. Recently, reporters went looking for them again. They found Yang, and she said the words no one ever expected to hear. She was no longer obsessed with Andy. She'd let him go. She felt real regret. If she had understood where this road led, she said, she would never have set foot on it. I'm deeply remorseful, she told them. I wasted what was most precious. My daughter paid too much. We all suffered too much. I was stubborn. Now she works a low-wage job, living on the minimum. A far cry from the brilliant student who once topped every class and carried her parents' brightest hopes. That is the case of Andy and Yang, a story that startles after you know how it ends. Obsession like this isn't rare. The more famous the star, the more likely a few admirers will slide from devotion into delusion. Too often, it ends in disaster. After the tragedy, something else changed. Andy began receiving threatening letters from other fans, promises to jump if he didn't meet them. He shut down the flow, stopped engaging with that kind of mail entirely. How could he do otherwise? He couldn't answer every letter. He couldn't be responsible for every fantasy that asked to be made real. As for Yang, she lost years, and her parents lost far more, chasing a feeling that started with a single dream. It's a harsh ending, but it leaves a clear warning behind. Love is not love when it erases your life.